Hi, I'm Sian and I'm here to talk to Paul today about everything Pooka Co, who we are, what we do, why we do it. We'll be covering everything from why we chose to work with WordPress all the way through to what AI is doing to the world of digital communications. You joined Pooka just before your daughter Beth was born. How was that, juggling setting up a business or developing a business and a newborn?
Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. It was so busy back then. All of the sleepless nights and the craziness that you can imagine. And Beth was our second child. Blake was a couple of years older. But yeah, joining a company when you're just having a newborn is not the best time to do it. But it was fun, and I think maybe part of the craziness of just trying to keep things going at home whilst trying to do something new. The mind works in strange ways, and I think we got through it, we had a good time, and I think COVID hit, which was interesting.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did that derail things? How did that change things for you?
The whole world changed, and bizarrely for Pooka, and I think for other web agencies, what we found is that charities and companies suddenly realised they only had one shop window now. That was their website.
Yeah.
So we were suddenly really busier than we'd ever been. And all of these charities that we were already working with, lots of new ones were approaching us to say, hey, how can we improve what we're doing online? How can we change our websites reasonably quickly and get things in shape? As we came out of COVID, we saw kind of a trepidation for people to alter the way that they were operating. And it's really only years later that we started to see major shifts in people's approach and really people willing to start considering those big business developments again.
So what was it that drew you to Pooka and the way that Pooka works? And for who it works for? I
come from a charity background. I think part of what's in me is wanting to make the world a better place. It's certainly what drives Marcus as well. And both of us, having moved from charities into working in the private sector, largely for charities, it really helps us do that. We know that we're in control of our business and we can bring good people like yourself in to work with us. Rather than working for that one charity at a time that we were previously with, now about 50 or 60 of them, which is great. So we really can put a lot of good in the world, and it's taught us a great deal about what it takes to make a charity run and to keep that running over the years. And it brings a sympathy to when you're thinking about who you're working with, what are their challenges, and how do they need to operate. You know, working for charities is quite a different thing for working in the private sector. This is one of the reasons that we really like working for charities. They have to make sensible decisions about how money is spent, and they have to do that for the long term. So this is very much aligned with our thinking.
And it's building in, as much as you can, legacy into a website.
Absolutely. The way that we always talk about building a website, a ground up website for a client, is this is something that we want you to be using for at least 5 years without having to make any major changes. We want that process to feel smooth. So we build very natively within WordPress.
And so often, certainly in my own experience prior to working for Pooka and working with public sector or charities, is that websites are built in a way that when you do want to make changes, the foundations fundamentally need to be changed.
Yes.
And from what I'm hearing is that you build the foundations that regardless of the change that you want to make can still stay in place.
Yeah, very much so.
And this is what charity or public sector comms teams really want, is to identify a need for a change, to know what the answer to that change is, and then to be able to implement that relatively seamlessly and in a straightforward way that doesn't cost them an arm and a leg.
That's what we've seen over the years, and the web changes. It really does. We're seeing so much at the moment with large language models and AI coming in. The web is very, very different now to how it was just 2 years ago. WordPress is a vastly more capable tool than it was 7 years ago. The block builder has come in then, and that has revolutionised what it's possible to do within a WordPress website if it's well coded. All of this changes, but fundamentally what charities are trying to do at their core tend to be the same things. You know, we work with organisations that have been around for 100 years in some cases, and more in fact in some cases. Fundamentally at their core they are still driven to do the same things for the benefit of society, and you need to find new ways of communicating at times, and you might have different campaign structures and organisational structures, but at the end of the day all of that needs to be able to feed into a website system and an online communication system that is quite malleable. Still gets across everything that you need to do, but is able to do it in the way that you need to do today and then tomorrow. So that's how we try and build to think about that stuff.
So from what I understand then, WordPress is it's a very intentional piece of web development, building software, one that can work for a multitude of different types of businesses and organisations, and it's really well placed for charities in the third sector and the public sector as well. Was working with WordPress a really thought out process? Were there other things that you were considering when that decision was made to work with WordPress?
That's a really interesting question. So WordPress as it stands in August 2025 is about 43% of the internet, which is astonishing in itself. WordPress has developed intentionally, as you say, over many, many years. There is a global network of volunteers and paid developers that contribute to that project. If you've achieved 40+% of the internet, you've done a pretty good job of things.
Yeah.
From our perspective, we're working with charities predominantly. So it means that when we download WordPress and use our years of experience to build that shop or bring City CRM into a project or whatever it is that we want to do for a particular charity, we know that the core of this thing that we're building is ours, it's the charities. It's not going to go anywhere. There's not suddenly going to be a license fee involved in this, which means it's massively cost effective for the charity to run in the long term.
What do you think really makes the Pooka team tick, and what's helped build that kind of trust and consistency that you have? Because as far as I know, the team has been around for quite some time now.
Marcus is our founder. Marcus began sort of created Pooka after moving from working in the third sector. Before I started at Pooka, we had Andre and Ivan as developers. Marcus was friends with Gaynor, who is our accountant, and that was pretty well us. Andre and Ivan are brilliant coders, and they can achieve something in probably half to, I'm not joking, a tenth of the time that Marcus and I can, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
We will get there, but these guys do that work all day, and they're wonderful at it. We got to a point of busyness where we needed someone else, and that someone was Lydia. And Lydia's turned out to be brilliant. One of Lydia's major benefits has been she values communicating in a face-to-face way. That's a wonderful thing.
Mm.
Another way that Lydia's wonderful is she really wants to challenge herself. So that kind of takes us to where we are on the development side of things. We then move on to kind of your world and also Mad's world.
Yeah.
So what we realised was, from a technical standpoint, we really need to have somebody on our team who can think about what are the current legal requirements for organisations around privacy. So we're thinking about things like GDPR, PECR and so on. We also, because we're Pooka and we come from that charity background, we needed to be working with someone who was not only very, very interested in working from a legal standpoint, but also had a similar mindset to us about the moral standpoint of what you're doing with data.
Yeah.
Long story short, Mads was already working with one of our clients and we're close friends with her outside of Pooka. She's a massive CRM specialist and she is interested in digital privacy to a bizarre extent. So just a superb addition to our team. And that's the other thing, why are you here with us? We knew that as well as focusing on ensuring our clients' security and privacy, building a Pooka that could also help them with their communications and making sure that they start to understand the necessity of showing the human beings behind their world, that was just going to be vitally important. Our model of how we help charities communicate is changed. There is more of a need to think beyond the website these days. We think that bringing all of this together builds Pooka as an organisation that charities can come to in the years ahead. It's something that understands a website is still at the core of what happens. It is the place that you hope to drive people to, but you're also going out to meet them in AI, on search, in social media. You're thinking about their communications platforms beyond there. So what are their newsletters looking like and how are they performing? How can we use tools like CRM systems, CRM, to pull all of this data back together into one place? And how can we create a really foundational organisation that are friendly and communicative and approachable and cost effective and be there for the long term? And that's really what Pooka's about.